Hello everybody, I'm Hannah and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about every single book I read in the month of August. Nope, we're going to be talking about every single book I read in the month of July. You are new here, welcome. I'm so happy you decided to hang out with me for a while. I start any kind of wrap-up video with some stats just so you can get kind of a general overview of how my month was. Spoiler alert, this was not my best reading month. In fact, it was one of my worst so far this year. Not necessarily in quality, although a little bit in quality, but really just in like quantity. I did not read as many books as I usually do this month. And I'm really at peace with that. I wasn't really psychoanalyzing why that is. I do think I'm a little bit slumpy, and I think I really just need to stop listening to so many audiobooks and pivot back into reading more physical books. I've already kind of made that change in the month of August. We're only a few days into August and I've already been reading, like physically reading books more, and I feel like that's making me pay attention and just feel more invested in the story. I'm much more of a visual learner slash processor than audio, and so I think anytime I'm going to a lot of audiobooks, I end up just not liking them as much over time, right? I can do an audiobook here and there, and I've had a couple of 5-star books in the last couple of months, but on the whole, reading is more enjoyable for me personally when I'm physically reading. Anyway, for the month of July, let's get into some stats here. So I read 14 books in total, which typically I shoot to read about 17 a month, and if I read 17 a month, that'll get me to my annual goal of 200, I think. Yes, I was a little bit ahead of that goal anyway, so I think now I've read, this is for the whole year, 126 books. So I have 74 books left to read for the rest of the 5 months of the year, so 75 basically divided by 5, so 50. So now my new total that I should shoot for is like 15 books a month in order to get to 200 by the end, or obviously if I want to exceed 200, then I would need to exceed the 15 books per month. How did we start that? Okay, 14 books for the month of July. I am pulling all of these stats from the Storygraph, which is one of my favorite book tracking apps. I'm crazy and I use a bunch of different book tracking apps. I want to do kind of a comparison video of them after I've used them all for a year. Currently, I'm using 6. I also track my like book of the month books within their app, so technically I guess 7, but the 7th only applies some of the time. Anyway, first up is moods. I had mostly mysterious and adventurous with 8 books each, followed by emotional with 7, and then everything's a bit lower. I had 3 each of tense, lighthearted, funny, dark, and then 2 reflective, and 1 each of informative and hopeful. Pretty big range there. For pace, I had 7% fast, 7% slow, and 86% medium. Page number, I had 21% 500 plus and 79% 300 to 499. I did not read a single book under 300 pages this month. 100% fiction. My genre chart is very interesting for the month of July because I normally have more of a spread. This one was purely 9 each of romance and fantasy, 4 contemporary, and 1 literary. That's it. That's all the genres. And star ratings, my average rating was 3.86 with 2 5 stars, 8 4 stars, and 3, no wait, I always mess up just the star charts. 2 5 stars, 8 4 stars, and 4 3 stars. Final answer. And so now we can get into our actual reads. Like I said, if I'm kind of looking at this month as a whole, I do really feel like I didn't have a ton that I absolutely loved. And because of that, I feel like I don't remember a lot of these books super well. So we'll see how like telling you about my experience goes, because it might be kind of not helpful based on the nothing that I remember of some of these, but it'll still be a good time, right? It's still bookish. And I just have these over here in like an order. Really, they're kind of from like largest at the bottom to smallest on top in terms of size. No rating order or anything. Let's get into it. So first off, we've got Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. I love this book. This was one of my 2 5 stars this month. I enjoyed this one so much. I think it's sort of a good like second chance romance-ish, which I'm normally not super big into second chance, but this one reminded me a lot of The Ex-Vows by Jessica Joyce. Basically, a wedding planner and her grumpy ex, who's a florist, have to work together to like plan this wedding for like the celebrity couple. Part of the reason I think I loved this one so much, one, Julie Soto is just an excellent writer. I feel like she can take you along for a story no matter what. I felt this with her romantasy. I felt this now in this book, and I'm very excited to read more from her. But the second reason is that it took place in Sacramento, which is where I live, and so pretty much every single location mentioned is an actual real place from Sacramento. And so it made me feel very happy just to be in this story where I felt very immersed because that's literally where I live my life all the time. Julie Soto is a local author to me, so it makes sense that she picked Sacramento because she's also from here. But I just had a really fun time with this one. I think her writing is excellent. She has really good yearning. I sometimes don't always feel like second chance romances are great just because if you broke up once, you should probably stay broken up, which doesn't apply to my own life because I married my ex. Maybe that's why I don't like it as much. It's not like an actual fiction for me, but I thought she did it really well with this one, and they didn't break up over something like dumb or unfixable. In either case, I would feel like, what are we doing? Yeah, so I really enjoyed this one and highly recommend if you like contemporary romance. Next up, we've got The Coppersmith Farmhouse by Devney Perry. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. This is the first in her Jameson Valley series, which I believe is one of the first series that she wrote. This is definitely like an indie published book. Devney Perry is very prolific though. She has so many books, and so if you like anything that she's written, there's probably more where that came from. This one was definitely not one of my favorites by her, purely because I really could not stand the male main character. I think there's a really fine line between writing like grumpy sunshine and writing like asshole sunshine, and this really kind of veered on the latter. I just found him really insufferable and pushy and rude, and like at times, like at the beginning, it was like, you know, you like an authoritative man. Some of the time, especially where her daughter was concerned, it was like, bro, cool your jets, relax, maybe like listen to this woman you're claiming to love for once. And so I don't think like Devney Perry struggles with writing like flawed characters, because he had flaws in spades. I think like she struggled to make him like desirable at all in this one. Because he was such a jerk, it kind of made the FMC into a bit of a pushover, which I didn't feel like was super enjoyable for me personally, even though I get it. We've all done stupid things for a man. Still not one of my favorites. However, I do really like Devney Perry, and I thought taking out the MMC's horrible personality, this was a pretty enjoyable read for me, so still 4 stars. Next up, we've got Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. This is my it's either my 3rd or 4th T. Kingfisher book, and every time I kind of feel like I absolutely love her writing. I feel like it's incredibly immersive. She has incredible like storytelling ability and can build worlds really well. I just never really care about her characters or her plot. And a lot of what I read for is characters and plot. I enjoy good themes and world building and writing and all of that too, but she does a lot of like reimaginings, retellings, and so this was a Snow White one. I ended up giving this 3 stars. It did not beat the allegations of the books before, which are that I don't care about the plots or characters, but I think the vibes are really, really there. I think this was kind of a dud. I probably will put it on my Pango, so if you're interested in this edition, this is the Owl Crate edition with like these really cool metallic sprayed edges. I was wondering why the book was upside down, and it's because I put the dust jacket on the wrong way. But look how beautiful this naked cover is. It's stunning. So truly, if you're looking for this book, please go check my Pango out because it will be there, assuming someone else hasn't already nabbed it. But like, look how stunning these end pages are. And it very much looks like a textbook. I think if you had to describe T. Kingfisher's writing, it would just be like gothic whimsy, which doesn't sound like a great combo, but it did work in here. I just think that T. Kingfisher is not necessarily for me. I've read Thornhedge, A Sorceress Comes to Call, or Sorcerer, one of those, and Nettle and Bone, all by T. Kingfisher, and now Hemlock and Silver. So I guess this is my 4th one by her. Not necessarily a win for me, but I would think that it would be a win for a lot of people. Next up, we've got What Blooms from Death by S.M. Gaither. Found this one, well, okay, first off, a moment for the spreadsheets. This is like such a beautiful book. And actually looking at these end pages is helping me remember what even happened in this book. Part of the reason, so, okay. Don't you love how coherent I sound right now? I gave this one 3 stars. Again, I think the writing was pretty good. I didn't love the setting. This took place like for a substantial amount of time in like, it's not called the underworld, but it's essentially like an underworld / like hell location. And I honestly think ever since I read Mark of Athena in the Heroes of Olympus Percy Jackson series, I just cannot stand books that like largely take place in any kind of underworld adjacent realm. That really applied here, and I feel like I just didn't really have a very fun time, and I didn't really care about the characters. The plot was interesting, but there was a lot of characters running around doing like dumb things, which made me feel like, do we really not have like one smart person in this whole book? Like there's gotta be one, like just for the sake of everything, you know? I wouldn't necessarily say this was an all-time favorite, probably will also be on my Pango, but that is What Blooms from Death by S.M. Gaither. Next, we've got a twofer. This is A White Horse Black Nights by Evie Marceau. This is I want to say this is an indie published version, but it might not be. I got this as a PR box long ago, and it's signed, so that's fun. And then I also have this Moonlight Book Box version, which actually might be one of my least favorite Moonlight Book Box books ever. And it's pretty like racy, the end pages. Woof. So this one, probably of the two, will be the one that's going up on my Pango. So keep an eye out if you want that. This is an interesting book. We've got kind of like a love triangle vibe to it. A really like rude king and sort of like a Cinderella-esque sort of reimagining, except to honor like this goddess, she has to like copy her plight. So the book starts off with her having to ride a horse to go meet her betrothed, which is, I think he's the king or the prince, I don't remember, naked, bareback on a horse for like weeks. I really kind of thought that would be like a more controlling aspect of the plot, and it really like wasn't. And then she kind of falls for the guy who's like supposed to be escorting her to her new husband. It had potential. I don't feel like it had any staying power. I did give it 4 stars. So I like enjoyed the ride, but it's kind of a stupid book, just to be honest. That's White Horse Black Nights, or like the very minimal information that I can give you about it, having read it almost a month ago at this point. Next, we got another 4-star. This is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. This is my first Brandon Sanderson. I have officially stepped into the world of the Cosmere, and I really enjoyed this one. I feel like I don't believe that the person who died at the end of this is actually dead, because that would be super upsetting, and I've seen a body, so it's not even that I can't trust that there's not a body, which is usually my problem with most books. Like, if you're reading the Red Rising series, do not trust that anyone's dead unless you see a body. Sometimes even then. Fingers crossed. Anyway, Mistborn. I really liked Mistborn. I loved Kelsier and why am I forgetting her name? Finn's relationship and the whole like master and apprentice sort of dynamic that's going on. I thought the world building was super interesting. You can tell the scope is going to be super expanded, and I just had a good time with this one. So I have book number 2, which is I think The Well of Ascension, ? Yes, it's right back here. The Well of Ascension, kind of locked and loaded to come up. So whenever I get the audiobook, I'll tandem read it. Really enjoyed this one. Good job, Brandon Sanderson. My one thing with this is that I do feel like he has a very direct yet very wordy writing style. Like, he's got a lot to tell you, and he says it in a way that's not particularly artful, which I half appreciate and half don't, because it's like, if we're gonna have this many words, they should at least be a little bit more lyrical, but he's just kind of telling you how it is, and there's merit to that, right? I don't feel like his way of telling the story would be confusing or like hiding the ball or anything, so I do appreciate that. It's not so far my all-time favorite fantasy book. I know some people go crazy for Mistborn, and I'm not there yet, but I am enjoying it enough to continue, so we will see how I feel after the future books. Next up, we've got Song of the Darkwood by Sheila Masterson. This is a kind of dark Little Red Riding Hood retelling. Basically, I forget what her name is. Rowan basically gets offered by her town as like a sacrifice. There's like these red, I forget what they're called, but they're like red maidens, and every like year they send one of them into the woods to like go and be a sacrifice to like this wolf who turns out to be like a really decent upstanding gentleman, but everybody thinks that he's just like using the girls for sex, basically. This doesn't sound like a super fun story when I'm explaining it that way. It's very entertaining. It does have a lot of spice in it, whether that's, you know, a positive or negative for you, and I liked it. It was entertaining, but it was not a masterpiece. And it's another one where I was like, you guys are just so horny all the time. Like, what is the story here? Is the plot literally that you're just gonna like do stuff? Because I don't really need to like be here for that 20 different times. So I did end up giving this one 3 stars, but it gets like probably a 4 for entertainment value. Next up, we've got my other 5-star read of the month, which also is a contemporary romance. This is No Matter What by Cara Bastone. This is a second chance, somewhat like marriage in crisis book, and it's super hard to read, especially if you are married and you picture going through something really traumatic with your spouse and like how that changes your relationship and how you might heal from it. And so this is really the healing process, and because of that, it's not a happy book. I would say if you're like in a rough spot with your marriage or your relationship right now, like this is not the book for you. But if you're in a good place, which I am in a very good place with my marriage, I think that it gave me, you know, more appreciation for for the husband that I love so much, and it's so fun to kind of read, I think, slightly older protagonists that are in a time of their life that's not just the falling in love stage, but the staying in love stage. So I really enjoyed this one. I would say it is probably my like least favorite Caribou Stone book so far. With I've read Promise Me Sunshine, Ready or Not, and this one. Ready or Not I think is my favorite. I think actually in that order is how I would rank them, but I did really enjoy this one. As far as I'm concerned, Caribou Stone could like write a grocery list and I would love to read it and thank her profusely. But yes, I really loved this one. I said I wasn't going to talk as much during this one, and I feel like it's going to be the same length as my like 26 long book months. Next up, we've got Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber. I have been so excited to read this one for so long because I love Stephanie Garber's writing. It just feels so like magical, whimsical, fun. It has a very like ethereal element to it. And so seeing her apply that to sort of a like contemporary story with fantasy elements as opposed to something that takes place 100% in a different world was really fun. And I enjoyed this one. I thought it was set in the 1920s. That is not the case. It just has kind of a Hollywood vibe to it, not like an old Hollywood vibe to it. I love this book. Look at it. Stunner. It's a fairy loot book, obviously. This is one where I can't really remember a ton, and we really didn't get very much involvement of my favorite character in this whole book, so that was kind of a bummer. But it is set up to kind of be the first of a series, so I'm very excited for the second one. I will probably have to reread this before the second one comes out, only because I did not do the best job paying attention, and I already feel like I can't remember as much as I should be able to. But basically, this girl is in this like college course about like folklore sort of, and then starts to kind of realize it's an all the stories are true sort of situation. She's a twin sister who's kind of like implicated as being part of like this broader scheme, and she's really confused for half the book, so like you're also confused with her. But I thought the payoff was good. There's some hot like brothers in here. It's a good time. Recommend. And I gave that one 4 stars. I think I said that, but 4 stars for Alchemy of Secrets. Next up, we've got City of Gods and Monsters by Kayla Edwards. I'm gonna be so honest, I feel like I don't really remember this one. I think I'm gonna want to reread this one eventually because I hear really great things about this as like a series. But again, this was one that I did primarily on audio, and I don't feel like that served me very well. This book is also very, very, very long, which makes it hard to stay like the same level of invested the entire time, but it's an urban fantasy. She's working, her friend gets kidnapped, so she's kind of working with her buddy to like, not her buddy, she's accepting help from Darian, leader of the most ruthless dark slaying circle in the city, but she's gonna of course fall in love with him. I think if you liked Crescent City, you will really like this series. That's what it reminded me the most of. And candidly, Crescent City is not, it's one of my least favorite of SJM series and not something that I really look forward to having in my books. So I don't know. I would read this one again though. I feel like I didn't give it a super fair shot. And again, I read it when I was kind of slumpy. I ended up giving this one 4 stars though. So that's not a bad rating at all. Pretty good rating actually. Can't really tell you much. City of Gods and Monsters by Kayla Edwards. Next up, we've got another 4-star. This is This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me by Ilona Andrews. This is actually a husband and wife writing duo, Ilona Andrews is. This was kind of pitched as Outlander meets Game of Thrones, which I love Outlander and Game of Thrones. So this was like basically a slam dunk in concept for me. Again, one that I would like to reread just because I feel like I didn't fully appreciate it as much as I should have, but I did really enjoy this one, and this one had a very, very smart FMC, which I appreciate a smart FMC. If I'm like feeling like half your decisions are just stupid, I'm not really rooting for you to like have a lot of success. So I would highly recommend this one if you're into romantasy. It definitely does have more of a fantasy leaning than a romance. That being said, I think it's like complex enough to really enjoy and simple enough to be able to follow. So best of both worlds on this one, and I recommend. Next up, we've got The Key to My Heart by Leah Lewis. I actually really like this one. This was a contemporary romance. I hadn't heard anything about it, and it was really sweet. Basically, this musician loses her husband in an accident, and I think it's been about like 2-3 years, and she still just really does not feel like herself. And then she starts finding these notes left by someone that she needs to figure out who it is that reference like different songs that have been important to her throughout her life. And she kind of thinks that it's like her husband having like set this up for her beyond the grave, sort of, but he died suddenly, so maybe not. It's a whole thing. So she's trying to figure that out. But I thought it was really sweet. I gave it 4 stars. One of those that I feel like I didn't know anything about, so I was pleasantly surprised by. Next up, we've got another 4-star read. This is Mona's Eyes by Thomas Schlesser. This is a translated book. This is a very interesting premise. This also felt like very personal to me. So this little girl has a TIA, which is basically a low-grade stroke, and it essentially takes out her vision temporarily for like, I don't know, an hour and a half, and it happens a couple of times. And so her parents are really concerned. Doctors don't really know if she's going to become potentially permanently blind. And her grandfather steps in basically to offer to take her to therapy so that she can kind of talk through her emotions and like learn how to be blind in the event that she does become fully blind. But instead of taking her to a therapist, he takes her to various different art museums to basically prove to her that even if she can't see anymore, she will at least have seen beauty and know what beautiful things look like. I will say, I think this one is hard to listen to because so much of it is discussing the various art pieces. And so if you don't have like even a smidgen of interest in art or art history, you will not enjoy this book. This dust jacket opens up and you can follow along with all of the pieces that they look at, which I think is a really cool touch. This was also Barnes & Noble's book of the year. I got hand sold it at Barnes & Noble, which is why I picked it up. This is not normally one that I would have picked up, but I'm really glad I did. I did enjoy it. It was a smidge long for me in places. Again, I feel like I should have read it instead of listening to it on audio, but I've been doing everything on audio recently, so that's my fault. But this is Mona's Eyes. Recommend. And next/last, I've got The Wicked Sea by Jordan Stephanie Gray. This is the Illyrial version, and then I also have Fairy Loot version. The Fairy Loot version is absolutely stunning, and I think I'm gonna keep the Fairy Loot version and put the Illyrial one on my Pango. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I didn't think it was bad. I just feel like it lost the plot a little bit. The world was super interesting. I don't really see a lot of like mermaid-centric romantasy stories, and so that was really fun. I don't remember it super well, other than that I felt like the plot was kind of stupid and a lot of like we're running here and we're running there to find this thing and now to find this thing, which is not necessarily bad, just not always my cup of tea. I don't know how long that took, but those were all of my July reads. So thank you so much for coming along. I really appreciate you being here, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Hope you have a great day and happy reading. Bye.